the SAVE Act, which was a voter ID piece of legislation that the Republicans wanted to get passed before the upcoming election, which pretty much would put into place restrictions and actions that you could actually use to prevent voter ID fraud and voting without actual proper ID. Well, of course, as predicted, Democrats twisted themselves up in a pretzel just to make excuses as to why they were not for only United States citizens voting in the upcoming federal election. They claim it's racist or it's preventing people from voting, all sorts of nonsense, which makes no damn sense in the world. But here's some of those excuses from the Democrat people in the House of Representatives.
Only citizens can vote for the United States Senate. Only citizens can vote for the presidency of the United States. So this extreme MAGA Republican voter suppression bill is not designed to solve any problem on behalf of the American people. It is designed to jam people up.
How?
And prevent Americans from voting.
Preventing Americans from voting by requiring to prove they're American citizen is not voter suppression at all. Of course, the Democrat narrative is that it's racist and voter suppression because people of color are not smart enough to go get a voter ID or an ID. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon. Is that racist?
Yeah.
According to these same people, black African Americans and black people are not smart enough to do math, so that's why they don't require it. It's not a requirement in most, inner cities type schools.
Yeah. Or the governor of New York said that black people are too dumb to work a computer.
He just introduced garbage cans in for the first time.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
Hypotheticals. It is under attack right now.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to hit play.
Sorry, you're good. He said earlier in that video that he was talking about saying it's a way to only let Americans vote. And it's like, isn't that the point of the whole vote?
Well, his argument, and the Democrats have been arguing, which I'm sure a few of these will probably say the same thing, that it's already illegal for illegal aliens or migrants to vote in elections. They're not wrong about that. But here's the thing. It's also illegal for the illegal migrants to actually even be in the country. But here we are.
Yeah.
Not to mention, these are the same Democrats who likes to say, well, we need to impose more gun control laws, even though a lot of the laws they're trying to impose are already illegal on the books too. But they have absolutely no problem trying to add those restrictions that are already in place as well to gun control. The difference with that, though, is placing restrictions on the Second Amendment is unconstitutional and goes against our God-given right to protect ourselves. And placing restrictions on who can vote is absolutely constitutional and is absolutely vital to the survival of this country. So Democrats are absolutely wrong on that one.
Well, they don't like the Constitution because the Constitution keeps them in check. It stops them from doing what they want to do.
Yeah. We literally had Supreme Court justices on the left say that the First Amendment is infringing their ability to govern. That's the point.
Yeah.
So,
and they're just proving that, the last couple of elections when a Democrat president ran, that some of those votes that were in there were fake. Because this is just proving. Maybe not fake, or maybe people that weren't actual American citizens were voting.
Or alive.
Yeah.
Or alive. Yeah.
Again, Barack Obama at the time had the most votes ever at 69 million people, and he had huge crowds. Donald Trump, I think it was 71 million or 74 million people voted for him in 2016. Huge crowds. Now, granted, they try to say, well, Biden, the only reason he didn't have huge crowds was because of COVID. 81 million votes. He don't have huge crowds now either.
He did a speech tonight at a school it held 600 people.
Yeah, and I agree with Kathy here. Election is only for Americans. If you're not American, you shouldn't be here if you don't have a legal ID. Not only that, but you should not be voting in the most important election that pretty much determines the fate of the world in some respect.
Yeah.
Whoever leads it. Well, let's get into. Oh yeah, go ahead.
They try to make it seem like we don't want people to become American citizens, and that's not the case. We want them to, but they want them to do it the right way. They can't just come in here and be like, "Oh, I'm an American citizen." And in fact, a lot of people. I mean, I've talked to like 2 people who have come here, going through the process and actually becoming American citizens the correct way, and they actually don't like those that are illegal immigrants coming in because it makes it harder for people like them to actually come in.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it the right way.
Yeah. I mean, and this obviously, if they're voting against this, that would actually put in place certain things that would actually make it to where you have to present a actual legal document to prove you're a United States citizen, and they're against it. 198 Democrats voted against this. I think only like 4 or 5 voted for it, mostly probably because they realized it wasn't going to pass anyway. So why put your name out there as a traitor to this country?
Yeah, I think they're up for re-election.
Yeah, that too. But 198.
12.
Yeah,
I think there was like 12 that weren't even there to vote.
yeah, something
So
like
I
that.
think their plan is to try it again when more people are there.
Yeah, and we're going to get into what Donald Trump thinks about this too. But when you've literally got an wide open border, and the theory going around already is that the reason why the border's wide open and Joe Biden's not shutting it is because he wants all these illegal voters here in the country because they know that they're going to vote Democrat if they let them come in. So it definitely lends credence to the supposed conspiracy theory that us right-wing conspiracy theorists are saying about how that's why it's the whole thing to begin with. But, you know, we're the crazy ones and we're the nut jobs for even suggesting that is not all about humanitarian action. No, there's definitely something behind it. Not only that, I just listened to a clip from Joe Rogan. He literally said, apparently, I have to look into this, but apparently we're actually shipping Venezuelans back to Venezuela because apparently the reason why the Biden administration is sending them back is because they just left a socialist country and they won't vote for socialism, so they won't vote Democrat, so they don't want them here.
Oh, wow.
Where's
Sounds
your
about right.
humanitarian for them if you're a Democrat?
Wow.
Again, it adds to that theory that is exactly what the Biden administration wants and the Democrat, because Democrats, they don't want to give up power ever. You want to say Donald Trump won't step down. Joe Biden is the one who's not stepping down now. But okay. All right, here's some more Democrats basically, you know, making excuses for this.
Hypotheticals. It is under attack right now, right here with this very bill. Republicans want to throw up barriers because when people vote, they lose. Let me be clear. They don't want you to vote. They don't want to hear black voices, brown voices, LGBTQIA voices, young voices. Our fundamental access to our democracy is being politicized. And this xenophobic attack that we're debating today will make it harder for Americans to vote. My Republican colleagues will claim that requiring IDs is a small ask, but nearly 30 million people lack a valid driver's license. And about 15 to 18 million adults don't have access to documents proving their birth or citizenship. Americans don't.
There are other ways of proving you're becoming an American citizen and getting documents to prove it outside of getting a birth certificate.
I'm pretty sure you can get just an identification.
Yeah, you don't.
It's $15. I'm pretty sure at most state houses. I mean, I know, you know, the world is kind of broke right now, and $15 is a lot. Trust me, $15 is a lot for my family trying to do something like getting some identification. You know. Yeah. But it's not impossible. And her throwing up and saying that it's racist against like black people and LGBTQ people, you know, and all these other minorities. And it's like, that's not the case. If they're American citizens, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Especially if it's important to you to vote. You should set aside that money, as difficult as it might be, even though, you know, I think if you could save up between now and November to get a $15 ID.
I think Indiana, I think it just ID in Indiana is free.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of states it is. So that excuse right there is kind of null and void.
It's like if these people have jobs, you know, if they have, I don't know much about getting on like Medicare and stuff like that, but you have to have some sort of identification, right?
Oh yeah, don't worry, I'm going to pull up a thing of a list of stuff.
You have to have ID to buy cigarettes too, and didn't they already say that, you know, black people like menthols?
Yeah.
Clearly, this is false. That these people have access to these things, or else they wouldn't be able to function in society at all.
No.
Because don't you also need ID to even get like a cell phone?
Oh yeah. Well, since we're talking about it, I guess I'll go ahead and pull it up. Here is all the things that are required to have a valid ID, but the one that we're not going to give a valid ID for is voting. You know, but I mean, just look at all these. I mean, it take me a half hour to list all these.
Buying an M-rated video game.
Yeah.
Going to jail.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all this stuff. But, you know, I guess you can survive without an ID in this country. This is what makes the Democratic argument absolutely weak and ridiculous at this point. I mean, there's no reason, none, unless you intend to cheat and sway the electoral votes. That's the only reason.
another thing you can do in most places, like I don't have currently, because we currently lost our social security card, but I still have the number. I have it memorized.
Yeah.
You know, and
do.
that's, yeah, most people do. And it's like they want to talk about us being racist because we require these things, but it's like if you don't give people the opportunity to grow and to learn your social security number, they're not going to.
Yeah.
And you know, you want to give everybody free shit, help them if they don't know how.
Yeah.
It's like
I mean,
welfare. They
these are
just
just-
want to give you enough to get you by.
Yeah.
Keep you quiet.
It's modern day slavery is what it is.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I mean, all these illegal workers who are getting paid for, you know, dollars to donuts here, they know that they can get them away for cheaper labor, and that's why they want them here, to take away jobs from hardworking Americans. It helps to further their, you know, plan to pretty much further destroy this country and hurt working class people like you and me. So yeah, this is just terrible. But yeah, I guess we can go back to a couple of these other excuses.
They took their germ.
Investigate claims of voter fraud by non-citizens was disbanded without identifying one single case. If we believe in the power of democracy, we should reject discriminatory rules rooted in fear and division and instead increase protections and expand access. This bill, they call it the SAVE Act. It should be called the Don't Let Americans Act. Don't Let Americans Vote Act.
Get there.
And so
There you go.
you're opposing and asking my colleagues to vote no on this bill.
And to advance it. John Lewis didn't give up, and neither will we. Mr. Speaker, House Republicans' so-called SAVE Act is a dangerous anti-democratic bill that has no place on this floor. It is for that reason that at the appropriate time, I will be offering a motion to recommit this bill back to the committee.
Now, these are the same people who tried to say it was voter suppression when it was ruled that you can't hand out things like water bottles or food to people standing in voting lines. It had nothing to do with not giving like necessities for people like in like hot weather or whatever it might be. It had to do with the fact that you can't sway someone's vote. It's so that you can't say, here, I'm giving you this water bottle. Got it. And so now you can vote for Biden.
There's one.
Yeah, or Trump
There's
or
two.
whoever it might be. But so yeah, it's about swaying votes. It had nothing to do with keeping people from getting what necessities they needed. You could bring that with you. So that sort of thing. But yeah, this is just ridiculous stuff. So here's a list of all the countries that require voter ID. And we're the one on the very bottom right that does not in every single state. There are some states that do, clearly, mostly Republican states. So again, this is the rest of the world, but we're the ones who's having issues with this. But yet the Democrats want to say we're the one with the freest and fairest elections. 198 Democrats, as I said, traitors to this country, saying that you don't need an ID to vote. So again, why would you vote against this? If you want like more gun control laws that are already illegal, what's the harm in doing something that's already illegal here and furthering it to where things could actually be implemented? That's the whole reason Republicans did not want to go with the gun control stuff, because it would actually implement further restrictions. This would implement restrictions here, but Democrats don't want that, and you can't understand why. But actually, you can when you really start to think about it here. This is a list or a map, as it were, of all the states that require photo ID are in blue. All the states that do not require photo ID are in orange, and those that non-photo ID and no ID required at all is in gray states. So, do you notice anything about this map in particular? About all the gray states are pretty much left-wing Democrat states. They're the ones that don't require ID at all.
They all have riots and shit too.
Yeah, I mean your New York Cities, your Los Angeleses, your Portland, Oregons, your Seattles, all the big cities, Chicago,
California.
all the big ones. Now, Colorado is a blue state. Normally, they've got non-photo ID required, but
The ones
yeah,
that have the most gun violence.
yeah, a lot of it too.
Throwing that out there.
Yeah, maybe they don't have to show ID to get a hold of guns in those places. I don't know. I know what I do where I live. But anyway, but this is, if you compare that map to the electoral map when Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump in 2020, you can clearly see a parallel between the states that were blue and the ones that don't require, ID to vote. So this right here is why Democrats did not vote for the SAVE Act. And you can't convince me otherwise. Anybody disagree with that?
No.
So 81 million votes. This is a picture of what they actually did during the 2020 election when the water main broke at 3 a.m. in the morning, and you had people outside wondering what's going on in there. They put up cardboard or whatever they had to do to cover the windows so you couldn't see what they were doing. So yeah, I mean, this is what's going to happen.
Why'd you got to cover the window up for a water main?
Well, because they didn't want you. Yeah, exactly. They didn't want you to see what they were doing with the voting rolls and things like that, the ballots. So in 2020, this is the top one is the red line was where Donald Trump was leading, and at about 3 a.m. in the morning when that water line broke and they covered up all the windows, it shot straight up for Joe Biden and leveled off after that because they claimed to say, oh, it was all the mail-in ballots due to COVID and the absentee ballots. But sorry, not every single vote breaks for one party with that sort of thing. It just doesn't. It's a statistical inaccuracy. There's no way. So this poster speculated that 2024 will be the same thing. Joe will be losing by so much more, and the jump will be a lot higher because that's how they're going to compensate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so unless something changes here, and all these laws that are being changed in Wisconsin that are now being flipped to allow for mail-in ballots and absentee ballots in excess, obviously you should allow those for people who are elderly, can't go out, things like that. But it's got to be monitored and things like that. Yeah. So Donald Trump responded to this. He said Republicans in Congress should attach the very important SAVE Act to the next continuing resolution when I think it's in September when the government could shut down. Stop the steal, guard the vote. Let the Democrats try to explain why they are against this. This is not doable. So yeah, Donald Trump is absolutely right here. Most people in this country, I think it was 80% were polled that they're in agreement that voter ID laws should be a thing, and we should have to prove that we're American citizens to vote. If Trump were to get back in somehow, some way, I hope that he's able to change this to where it becomes, federal law across the country to where you have to show ID because it should be. That's the way it's constitutionally should be. So this should not be controversial to anybody in this country unless you're a Democrat who wants to just win elections without any opposition. And it's not the way this country was made. It's like they found out the way to rig the system, and now that's what they're doing. And it's just sick. Thank you for checking out this clip from the Dragon's Den podcast. If you like what you saw here, please consider checking out our live podcast almost every single Friday night here on the channel at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And until our next video, guys, take care and God bless.